Greetings, Internet, and welcome to an episode on Scanning Vergil. Today we're going to be taking a look at probably just the first four lines of Vergil's Aeneid, Book 1 or Book Alpha if you prefer. Rather than translating it like we would normally do, today we're going to be scanning these lines. And what that means is figuring out what meter, well, we already know the meter, dactylic hexameter is the meter that Vergil and Homer wrote in. But how exactly the meter matches up with these lines, how we would chant them aloud. So first I need to walk you through what exactly we're looking for. As I said, Vergil and Homer, two great ancient poets, both wrote in epic meter, which is dactylic hexameter. And dactylic hexameter is made up out of 6 feet, just sets of beats together, and each of those feats are feats. Oh my gosh! Each foot is going to be either a spondy or a dactyl. And what those are is they are actually combinations of notes, if you will, stresses and unstressed letters within the actual text. So the way we're going to mark that is a stressed syllable, which we can also consider a long syllable. It's going to have a long mark right there, similar to a macron. And an unstressed syllable is going to have this little U shape there. A spondy is 2 long notes, and a dactyl is is a long note and 2 short notes, 2 unstressed notes. Okay, how do we determine these? Well, a unstressed syllable right here is going to be any instance where we have a naturally long vowel, like qui, or the I in primus, or the O in cano, where we'd normally find them with little macrons above them that tell us that we're supposed to say this vowel twice as long as our standard vowels. Any short syllable, any unstressed syllable, is going to be a naturally short letter, like the A in ob, or the U in us. Okay, there are a couple others. Another long syllable is any instance of a diphthong like AE right here. They don't have macrons over them, but they are longer syllables. We will also use long marks whenever we find instances of double consonants, or a consonant that counts as 2. I don't think we have one in here. At a double consonant is anytime we have like M and Q right there. They force the vowel before them to become long, even though this U by nature is an unstressed syllable. X is a natural double consonant where it counts as 2 consonants together. So anything before an X is also going to have to be long, whether or not it has a macron like these few do. All right, am I missing anything? Yes, I am. Elision. Elision is something that's going to happen a lot in here when reading poetry. Sometimes we come across instances where we have vowels right next to each other. And when you have 2 vowels next to each other, like the 2 E's in line number 3 here, that can create something called hiatus, where you have to say eh. You have to pause and put a break between there. And apparently the Romans really hated having any hiatus. So instead we would elide the first of the 2 vowels out of that situation to get rid of that horrible sound and make it sound better. So where we have 2 E's here, or a UM followed by a vowel, or a normal vowel followed by an H and another vowel, the further of the 2 back UM here, E here, elides into the next vowel, and what we do is we have, normally the way I write it is I'll cross it out and have a line going from here to here. And this tells me, when I'm trying to read aloud in meter, that I'm supposed to try to make a V sound before this E to meld it with the previous word. Now that's not easy, and I rarely succeed in it. Okay, so that's elision. Probably spell that for you. Elision. That thing right there. Okay, there are a couple other symbols that might appear in here. At each foot, I'm going to write a tall line between the feet to differentiate them, so you can tell the 6 feet apart. A shorter line, I might occasionally do that for a instance of, what is it? the Caesura, which is a natural breathing point in the line where you can, if absolutely necessary, pause for a second, take a deep breath, and move on. I'm usually not going to do Caesuras because there's so many of them. There's at least one, if not two, for every line, and they're, frankly, hard to figure out sometimes. The final thing is our last letter, our last syllable in each line is usually going to be indeterminate, whether it's long or short. So we normally just mark those with an X, unless it's obvious. Then I think you're, according to the standards, you're still supposed to mark it as an X, but I'm definitely going to forget to do that and mark it long, usually. All right, I think that's all we need to go through. So we can go ahead and begin. Naturally, because both the spondy and the dactyl start with stressed syllables, the first letter, the first syllable in every line is going to be long. And as I said a moment ago, the last syllable is usually going to be short. And this last foot entirely is a little bit off from these two because it will only have 2 syllables in it total. So the first one, O, here is going to be long. And the I is going to be indeterminate unless we know that by nature it is one thing. Since we have a preposition here, this one we know takes the ablative, so the I is itself going to be long by nature, so we wouldn't mark it with X unless convention tells us that we're supposed to. And I don't remember convention. So go ahead and mark off that foot. Instantly, I normally start at the end of a line unless I have the macrons provided for me, because it's much easier to go backwards. And I've got a pin here, so probably going to make some mistakes. Sorry about that in advance. Going back to the front, we've got an A here, and this is on a neuter word, and it's going to be plural accusative because we've got a first person singular in this verb, so we know that this is a short A, and this I is also short, so that gives us our first syllable. We've got an MQ here, a double consonant, which forces this U to become long by position rather than nature, and then que con. Those are both naturally short. Put 2 marks there. And that gives us our 2 feet, and this corresponds nicely with our naturally long O. So that starts number 3. Okay, and then we come to Oiai. Now, this one is, and has been for me forever, always a bit uncertain. We have 3 different options for this. One of them is very likely, one of them less likely, and one of them probably not true ever. Though I have to go through reams of notes. I think I did find one instance where one of the least likely one seemed possible. Our options are, this could be a long O followed by a J, even though it doesn't look like a J, and that's fine. That's probably what's going on here. It could be that we have a borrowed Greek diphthong. The least likely of the options would be oi, in which case this is a diphthong. It's naturally long, even though the Greek one is short, hence it being unlikely. Or we could have 2 independent vowels making 2 short syllables, and that's the middle of the 2 options. Again, not very likely. So I'm going to treat this O as long, and I'm going to treat this I as a J, and then we've got our foot break right there. Diphthong is long, and we got another long here, so that's our 4th foot. And then primus and ob, those are both going to be short, and that finishes our first line. Okay, we count it off to make sure that we got everything right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 feet. 2 syllables here. Everything fits. So far, so good. As we move on, some helpful things to keep in mind. Always are. First letter, always long. Second to last letter, almost always going to be long. Last one, doesn't matter very much. The 5th foot, another thing that's wonderful to remember and can make scanning much easier, is the 5th foot is almost always going to be a dactyl. Almost. I don't know what the statistics are on it, but it's pretty rare to have a spondy as your 5th foot, and normally Vergil will only do that when that the text wants the meter to sound very severe or very important, if you will. All right, line number 2, naturally long. Okay, take a look at this at the end. We can go ahead and cross off that I. That I is going to be short by nature. That E is going to be long, so that gives us our 6th. So take a look at this. We've got 2 consonants right there, so this A is going to be long by position, and then IA is short. and fato. Fatum is a second declension neuter word, and that A is going to be long by nature, and this O is also going to be long by nature. I think this is an ablative here. Okay, and then as we take a look at profugus, we've got two consonants right here, but these are individual consonants. These two are naturally short, so our U here is going to become long because of that L and that S, forcing it into that. O and U become unstressed. Okay, so far so good. And then Lavinia. This one is a little bit more difficult. In order to figure out how to scan this one, you need to go to the dictionary entry and figure out what letters in it have macrons and make it therefore stressed by nature. And doing that, we know that the A is long, which then closes off our fourth foot, and this I naturally has to be long because it's the starting vowel of the next foot. And then that tells us that we've got 3 vowels left, except I before a vowel can and quite frequently is a J. That's what we'll treat it as. Then A and E are both short, and that finishes line number 2. Okay, litor. Okay, that I is long by nature. Got individual consonants there. Neither of these are long by nature, so we can go ahead unstressed, unstressed. 2 consonants here, so long by position. This as we've already discussed, it elides into that I, so we can cross it out. Okay, and this I is long because of the 2 L's. We'll put our foot break between the 2 L's. These E's elide together, so that one becomes long. The T's are double consonants. We've got 2 R's here. This one is long by position. IS, because this is a first declension feminine word, this makes it dative or ablative plural, so that's long by nature. Okay, and then we've got a double consonant here, which means this I cannot be a vowel, because we can't have long, short, long. That doesn't exist as an option for dactylohexameter. And this A has to be long by its position because of these 2 consonants. Cut those in half. This A, since it is the connecting vowel for the 4th principal part of a first conjugation verb, it is also long by nature, which is good. It fits with our pattern so far. Us and et are both going to be short by nature. Alto has 2 consonants after it, and it's the start of the final foot, so it's long. And O is long by nature, but we can make it an X, which we can do also for that one. Just a weird looking X. Okay, so that's line number 3. Moving on. We, that is long by both position and by nature, is the first letter in the sentence, so it's kind of has to be. Got 2 consonants here, and S, so this U is going to be long. U and E here are going to be short. Cut that off. We've got a diphthong right there and right there, so both of those are long by nature. Cut that off. First 2 feet are done. All right, and then we come to memorum. And memorum, just like Lavinia here, is a bit of a problem. We could go to the end and we could build our way over here, but then we'd be left with foot number 3 and foot number 4, and it'd be hard to figure out which one of those has 3, which one of them has 2. So we just have to go to the dictionary and figure out, well, what actually has a long mark over it? And as we take a look at the dictionary, which I'm not actually going to do right now, we see that none of them do, which means this E is short and this O is short. That ends the 3rd foot, and this E would be short by nature, except we got that J right there. So E becomes long because of the double consonant. And then Juno's name, we've got this O is going to be long by nature. This S is short, so this U has to be long. Okay, Ob is also short by nature. The I at the beginning of Ira is long, and this A is short because it ends the line and it's AM. That's naturally short. Okay, so there are our 4 lines. I'm going to go ahead and put the caesuras in there so you can see what that's like. A caesura normally appears after, I think, the 5th syllable or the 7th syllable, and in text like this one, it's normally going to be marked by a comma. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got a caesura right there. 6 and 7. Got another caesura right there. And a caesura can't appear in the middle of the word. It has to appear separating 2 words from each other. So if for whatever reason you're an extremely short-breathed person reading this first line, you could pause at either of those instances and it'd be all right. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 can't be right there because that's the fourth syllable. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That messes up with what I said earlier. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Thinking, brain failing. Not syllables. It's long mark or two short marks. Gosh, sorry, it has been a long time since I've had to deal with scissors. So this one, invalid. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the second syllable. This is the primary. And this is the secondary scissor. Not that one. Shame on me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Primary. 6, 7. We've got 2 in this one as well. Yikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 and 7. Oh, they also can't break naturally feet. Like they can't appear at a natural break from one foot into another foot. Okay, all of these have 2 so far. See, there are a ton of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 4 of these lines have 2 scissors, and this is why I'm not doing that again. You can go ahead and do it on your own. Doesn't add very much to the text, to the reading of it, really. But now you know. Okay, so after 5 or 7 long or double shorts. All right, let's read it aloud, and then we're done, and you can go on your merry way. Arma virum quecano Troiae qui primus aboris Italiam fato profugus laviniaque venit litor multi letteris jactatus et alto vi superum saevae memorem unonis ob eram. And there you go. Thank you for joining me as we scan some Vergil. I hope this was illuminating for you, or fun. And I also certainly hope that you learned something. And if I do continue in this, I hope you join me then. Have a good time of day. Farewell.